What is up, guys? Jim from Russell Wellbeing here. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Unseen Battles. That's right, Season 2, Episode 1. And what a fantastic guest to have as our first guest of 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the youngest and most brightest promising talents of the UK wrestling scene. Ladies and gentlemen, the woman of many talents. She is a former PEW Women's Champion. She's the current reigning, defending Elevation Women's Champion. She's the winner of the Colville Classic 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest at this time, Miss Freya Rose. Freya, thank you so much for joining me.
So much for letting me on your podcast.
It's my absolute pleasure. So, Freya, the first time that I actually saw you was last year at UKW's WrestleBration Aftermath, where you faced Nisa for the UKW Women's Championship. That was myself and my wife's first ever UK wrestling show in its entirety. And the first thing that my wife said when we came out of that is that Freya Rose is one of the best female wrestlers that I've ever seen.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. That's a lovely praise. Especially my first time being there as well. It was lovely to hear feedback.
Absolutely. So, the way that this came about is that my friend Liam from Magical Wrestling obviously put your name forward. He then got in contact with yourself. What was it like for you being on Liam's podcast?
It was really good, to be fair. That was my first ever podcast ever. Obviously, he DM'd me back from on the show, and I thought, why not? I'd had a look through, seeing some of the people on it. I thought it'd be nice to get out there and share my story in the way that I've got into it.
Absolutely. So that is entirely what this is about: getting people's wrestling journeys out there, but also their struggles and battles with mental health. As someone who has suffered with mental health problems myself, I do believe that it is a subject that isn't talked about much, if at all, within wrestling, which I think that is something that needs to be brought to the forefront of wrestling.
100%, definitely, especially with the amount of social media coverage that obviously we have as wrestlers. It can all get kind of messed up and out there quite a lot. So I think it's always good to talk about.
Absolutely. So, guys, if you've watched the previous season before, make sure you go and watch them if you haven't watched them before. But obviously, we're going to be talking to Freya about her wrestling journey to start off with, and then as we go through that, we are going to be talking about some mental health battles and struggles, and hopefully triumphs that Freya has gone through. Make sure you stick around for those ones, guys, because it's going to be an absolutely fantastic episode. To start us off, Freya, what initially drew you to professional wrestling? Is it something that you've always been a fan of? Is it something that you sort of like came into later on?
So whenever I get this question, I always feel awful saying that it wasn't a dream of mine when I was younger, because I know for many wrestlers it always was. But I grew up around watching wrestling. Went to a couple of shows when I was a lot younger. But then when I was 14, my dad and my uncle started wrestling at Elevation. And I just really enjoyed, seeing how they were doing and going to the shows myself, meeting new people, just watching the shows. Really enjoyed that, and I thought I'd give it a go. When I was 14, I started training, and I really enjoyed it at the time. But when you're 14, you're at school, and obviously I'm a dancer as well, so I had that going on. It all got quite a bit much, so I did stop training. And obviously I still had my love for going to the shows and watching it, and obviously Elevation at that point were doing one a month. So every month I'd be there watching their shows, and it just drew me back in. So it took me a while, but when I was 18, I did get back into it. And just from there, I didn't really want to have a match or anything. I was like, I'm just going to go, the people, the surroundings. And then, a couple months later, about a year later, I was debuting on shows.
Fantastic stuff. So, when you first started watching wrestling, who were the typical wrestlers that sort of drew your focus?
So when I first started going to Elevation, because it's really bad to say, I don't really watch wrestling on TV. I very much like the and the first ever wrestler that I was drawn to was Visage at Elevation, and I was just completely obsessed. I was like, the amount of confidence, and I was just like amazed. I thought that's so cool. That's what I want to do. I want to get out there. I want to perform like this and put on a show. That was the first wrestler that really drew me in.
Fantastic. So, can you describe to us what the first training session was like with when you started going to Elevation itself? What was it like stepping into the ring for the first time?
So when I first went to Elevation, it was quite funny actually. The funny story of my first ever training session, I was just there to watch. I had a long day at work. I was going with my dad, and I was like, I'm just going to go sit and watch on the side. And obviously, because I'd been involved from like quite a young age, I knew everybody that was there anyway. And I was sat there, and they was like, "Oh, do you think you could do that?" And I was like, "I could give it a go." And they're like, "Well, go on then." So just hop on it. So it was quite funny that I just went to watch, and then at that point, I joined in because the point when I first started training, Elevation didn't have the training facility that we had at the minute. We was training at Brockington College on mats, so it was kind of like it wasn't as scary and daunting as getting straight in a ring could be. So it was really nice for everyone to just go like, oh, just give it a go, nothing too crazy or out there. It was nice to just, at my own pace, and everyone was so supportive of give it a go, see if you. And then, if you do, carry on. If you don't, that's it. You've given it a go. And obviously, I really, really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, what was it like when you took that first bump in your first match?
So obviously, when we then were having shows, we was obviously still at Brockington College, so we was training on the mats. But then when I first went to a show and we had the ring up, and there's like, "Are you ready to take a bump?" And everyone was showing me, and you look at it and you think, "Yeah, not too bad, it'll be fine." And then you take that first bump and you're like, "Oh, definitely a lot worse than I thought it was going to be." But you usually get used to it, and the adrenaline, especially when you're in matches, it gets you through. And then obviously now where we train in the facility at the moment, the ring's there all the time, so you're getting used to it, and your body grows to get used to it as well.
Absolutely. So, what would you say the best advice that you've received from your trainer has been so far?
I'd definitely say it would be to just believe in myself. I'm very much a person of like, if I see something, I'm kind of like, I can't. That's not for me. Don't even want to try it. But it's very much yourself. I think you can do it. What's the worst that can happen? And I think that that's a good bit of advice to be given, because if you're so shut off yourself, you're never going to learn how to do these things. But having someone obviously believe in you and standing in your corner just for them little things, that's what really pushes you to try them and find that you can do it. So I think definitely just believe in yourself, trust it, just give it a go.
Fantastic. So, what would you say have been some of your most memorable moments or matches in your career so far?
Sorry, can you say that again? You just broke up.
It's okay. What would you say have been some of the most memorable moments or matches in your career so far?
Okay, so I think one of the funnest matches that I've had so far, one that I really, really remember, is at Elevation. I was in a bit of a feud in a storyline with a wrestler called Eli Valentine, and month after month we was obviously having our matches, and we was going to have our big final blow off match where it became a hair versus career match, where he put his hair on the line. So if I won, I got to cut his hair, and if I lost, my dad had to give up and quit wrestling, professional wrestling. And I ended up winning that match. So he tried to run off at the end. So my dad and uncle came out, sat him down in the middle of the ring. I had a pair of scissors and I just chopped his hair off. Had quite long hair, but it all. So that was a lot of fun. That was my most fun match. And then recently I had a match with Bryn Leverkusen at Brockington, which I think is definitely a big highlight because she is absolutely amazing. So I think just having the opportunity to have that match was a big highlight, and I learned so much from her just in and out of the ring. She gave so much feedback and so much advice, and I really appreciate that.
Fantastic stuff. So, who would you say are some of the wrestlers who have inspired you throughout your journey?
Um, Again, as it is like, I'm not a massive watcher of TV, people that are more close and personal. So I definitely say my dad and my uncle, Bad Intentions at Elevation. They're what obviously got me into it, and just seeing them and how much they've grown as well, it just proves to me that I can do the same. I have lovely friends at Elevation, Kai Daniels, Nathan Fisher. They're, every training session that I'm at, and they just like spur me on of if I'm feeling I can't do this or I'm not feeling great. They're like, no, we can. They're always there to make it fun, and they really inspire me. Just like how they are at shows, and how they're going after what they want, and it's all just such a positive environment that they really make you feel like you can just do anything.
Fantastic. So, would you say that the camaraderie of the locker room makes it a lot nicer place to be? Does it make it a lot easier for obviously new people coming in?
100%, 100%. I think obviously as I started out just at Elevation, um, they have like such a lovely backstage area. Everyone's so nice and everyone can talk to anyone, because that was always one thing that I was nervous about. I'm not great at talking to new people, but I feel like the way that people treated me there, when I then started getting bookings on outside shows, it was kind of like, this is how I'm going to treat other people. This is how people are going to treat me. That sort of I was really taught, the etiquette that you should have and how you meet people, and just create that positive environment that you want to be in, which I think is really nice, especially going to shows where you're meeting lots of new people or you might not really know anyone. Just that kind of, put a smile on, introduce yourself to people, just really. It's just that's how friends, make new connections with people. And I think having a positive backstage environment really reflects on the shows that you're then putting on. So I think definitely it's good to have a great backstage environment.
Fantastic. So, obviously, you mentioned that both your dad and your uncle were involved in Elevation for a number of years. Did that cause any controversy at all backstage? Were there any sort of like other wrestlers that were perhaps jealous that you obviously had been sort of like brought up in the business sort of thing? Was there any problems with that?
Um, I wouldn't say so. I feel like obviously because I was already always around that already. When I was just a fan at 14, I was going, so people knew that I was involved obviously with Bad Intentions, and then people were so lovely back then that they knew me as a fan. It just kind of like trailed on into me becoming a wrestler myself. I think obviously when I first started out as well, it was kept quite separate, that the fans didn't know that I was Bad Intentions, like niece and daughter. It was a storyline that came on like later down the line, so there wasn't anything kind of like, oh, she's getting like straight into certain matches because of Bad Intentions, that sort of thing. It was kind of like, even though my bad intentions were there, I like to joke that I'm a bit of a nepo baby of, people knew them, I came along, but I worked my own way up to get where I am. So I think it's kind of fair that people recognise I put my own hard work in as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, um, obviously mentioning your accolades earlier, being a former PEW Women's Champion, the current Elevation Women's Champion. How do you prepare for such a big match like that, both physically and mentally?
Physically, I think obviously just train as much as I can. Obviously, with Elevation, there's different days with different coaches. There is so much time you can spend there with different people, getting the knowledge and stuff and preparing for different matches. And I think mentally, the matches that I'm in, obviously, the Elevation Women's Championship, I was going against Ashley Vega, who, even though we had obviously this big feud, is a very, very close friend of mine. So I think it's just knowing that, we have all the love there, that I feel very comfortable going into these matches, because I know I trust the people I'm in there with. I have faith in them. We're going to put on a good match because we have that chemistry there. So as much as, you're having a big women's championship match, I just try and take the pressure off myself. So I'm going in there with a friend. We're going to put on a show for the people there, and we're going to have a fun match. So even though the stakes are there, I prefer to just relax, go out and have fun. That's all that matters.
Fantastic stuff. So, obviously, when you are approached by management of the wrestling company that then tells you, just to let you know, you're in this title match with this person, you're going over tonight. What does that do to you? Does that cause any anxiety? Does it bring out a lot of pressure? Does it make you want to put in more effort, sort of thing, to make sure the show is even better?
Yeah, so the PEW Women's Championship, that was a crazy story for me, as that was my first ever outside booking. I got the message, obviously, from the promoter that I was going over and I was going to win the championship off of Harley Hudson. And I remember getting the message and I was just like, what? It kind of like, it stopped for a minute. So I was like, I've never had an outside booking before. Usually I'm face at Elevation and they wanted me as a heel. And obviously I'd seen Harley Hudson all over my Instagram for absolutely ages, that like she was an idol of mine. That when I just got the message, I kind of like sat in my room for a minute, like, are you serious? So then I ended up downstairs and seeing my dad. Dad, this is what's happening at this show. And I was just mind blown that it took me a minute to like get it into my head and settle it. But then obviously at that point, I was kind of like, right, this is a big match. Obviously my first ever championship. And I was like, this has just got to be so good. It's got to be perfect. And I like to do my research anyway. So obviously I watched Harley Hudson's stuff and I was like, cool. So I knew what I'm going in for because, like you say, I just want to put on the best match that I can. So I think definitely knowing your opponent can help, you know, having that bit of preparation of this is what I'm going into. This is the standard that we're going to be at. So as much as it shocked me and I was like, oh my God, so much pressure, I was kind of like, nope, it's fine. Regular match. We're going to have a great time. This is what we're going to do. And just think of it like that. So I try not to put too much pressure on it because I know I will stress myself out.
Absolutely fantastic. So, what would you say have been some of your biggest challenges that you faced in your career so far, aside from mental health?
um, I'd say, well, yeah, I would mainly just go into the sort of like the confidence sort of thing. That's been a big struggle of like when I first started out, I was quite a very like timid person. And I think my first ever match, my debut match, I wasn't worried about having a match. I was worried about making my entrance. I was just nervous about that. I was like, how, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How are people going to perceive me? And, you know, the whole match thing, I was like, that'll be fine. We'll figure that out. That will be what it will be. But I was like, I'm going to go out in front of all these people and, you know, put a big smile on my face and just get on with it, really, just do it. But that was something that I definitely had to work on.
Of course. So, how would you say that your wrestling style or your persona has evolved since you first started?
I'd like to think that obviously when I first started, I used to have a great time, but I was that sort of, I came out, did a bit of a yay, went round, I had my match. I didn't have like much crowd work. I was kind of like, right, I'm in here, I'm going to do my match. I'm going to have my match and I'm going to be done. And like, as much as I enjoyed it, it was that kind of, let's do it and get back. Whereas now, I feel like over the time, I just love being like out there in front of people. So now I'll do my entrance and, you know, I'll go and talk to the crowd. I'll interact with the people during my matches. You know, I'll make a look round. I'll say things to the crowd. And it's sort of that I really, really enjoy being out there now. And I feel like I have quite good interaction with the crowd. Obviously, pretty much the same fans at most of the shows. I have a real good connection with them. And my persona is very much based on the child demographic. Obviously, being Freya Rose, I give out a rose to a child every time I go out, and it's sort of that thing of like just giving back a little bit. So I feel like with the children being my demographic, that's what I like to go for the most. You know, show them that when you're bigger, this is what you can do. And I think obviously with being a dancer, the girls kind of like my persona of, oh, I do dancing at the weekend, I do gymnastics at the weekend, and but I can do this as well. You know, it's that sort of, you can show you can do more than one thing. And if you don't think you can do this, you can, because it's not something that I ever thought that I was going to, but here I am now.
Fantastic. So, we've got a couple of Instagram questions for you before we go on to the second part of the interview. So, the first question is from Lunatic Louise, very good friend of the channel, who asks, "Who is your dream opponent?"
Dream opponent, okay. I think one that I really wanted a match with, and I mentioned this obviously on Liam's podcast, was Holly Barlow, which I do actually have coming up. I met her once at a PEW show, and I just thought she was like the most loveliest person ever. So smiley, so chatty, and I was like, I definitely want to wrestle her. And then luckily enough, at Brockington on the 24th of this month, that is a match that I'm going to get. So, and obviously being champ as well now, it's a nice big championship match. So it's big, but it's a match that I definitely wanted to happen. So I appreciate that that's come about for me.
Fantastic. Next question is from Liam of Magic Wrestling. Two from Liam. First is, what's the goals for 2026?
Yeah, that's a great question. I set my goals. I set my 2026 goals last year to win the Elevation Women's Belt, which luckily I got to do in November of last year. So I had to think about it. I don't know if it's too big of a goal, but I would like to wrestle abroad. So I'm gonna see how I can get about that. Get my name out there a bit more. And I would like to wrestle somewhere abroad. I see all the women out there on Instagram doing so well, and it's kind of like that's what I inspire to be like. I want to get to their level. I want to go and make my name out there a lot more.
Fantastic. Second question from Liam is, what's it like working with Holly Barlow?
So I'm so excited for that. I've met her once at obviously the PEW show, and I think I was supposed to have a match there. Obviously, that unfortunately we didn't get to have. But she's such a lovely person that I'm so excited for that match, and when we get to have that.
Fantastic stuff. So thank you, Louise, and thank you, Liam, for your questions. But guys, we're going to go to the mental health side of questions now, guys. So obviously, if you have seen the Unseen Battles before, you know what is coming next. If you are struggling with mental health whatsoever, please look in the description. There are plenty of links down there, not just for mental health charities, but also for addiction and also suicide prevention as well. Make sure that you are getting the help, guys. It is okay to talk, and make sure that you are talking to people that are around you, because we do care. People do care and people do love you. So obviously, guys, we are going to now go over to the mental side of things. So be back in 2 seconds. So Freya, to start off, can you tell us what is your biggest fear?
Sorry, you broke up one moment.
Sorry. So first question I've got for you, Freya, is, can you tell us your biggest fear?
Oh, my biggest fear is heights. That's
Okay.
something. Get into the top rope in a match because I have a fear of heights, which is quite negative for me. I really want to do some cool stuff from the top rope, but you won't see me up
there. Okay. Might have to get someone to kind of like pull you out of your shell so that you'll try something from the top rope.
Someone on either side holding my hands while I'm up there. You might get me up there, but I've tried it. I've got up there and kind of shakily stood up, but could not stay up there very, very long.
Of course, absolutely. So, can you share a bit about when you first started experiencing the struggles that you have with mental health?
Okay, so when I was 16, I started suffering with panic attacks, and that obviously at the age of 21 now I do still deal with. Again, is another reason kind of why I got into wrestling. Obviously, I just started struggling with my panic attacks and kind of just getting home from work and being like, what now? Not a lot to do. Kind of in my head of, it's not been a great day. Now I'm going to go home, sit in my room, not do a lot. And that's obviously why my dad said to me, all right, come to a training session, just sit and watch. It gets you out of the house, gets you seeing people, which is what I used to do obviously quite a bit because I loved the situation and the people, that I was kind of like, yeah, you're right. I think I need that. I need to go and see some people. Even though I don't want to be a wrestler, I'll go and I'll see all the people that I love to see on the shows. It's just kind of nice to have that bit of involvement for myself. So obviously that's why I went to a training session one time, just one day it was kind of like, right, enough is enough. I need to go and do something.
Of course. So, when you have these panic attacks, do you have an idea as to what brings them on? Is there a certain trigger that you have at all?
Fortunately, this is one thing I've never been able to kind of get a grasp of. Obviously, when I was 16 at school, there was very, very frequent, and it was like, I had a lot of people saying, well, what is it? Because, it happens in class, it happens at lunchtime, it happens at home, it happens in the morning, it happens at night. That kind of, it comes on at any time, and people are going, so what is it? Because, whatever that is, we'll just figure that out and we'll stop that. And it was a hard thing to learn, that kind of like, you can't just stop it. There's not one little thing that you can pinpoint of, right, we'll remove that from the situation and you'll be fine. It's kind of like, there was a time when I used to go, right, I've just had one, this is the situation I was in, this is what it was like. But it was kind of like, it never really came to anything because they was all so different. But sometimes just a busy place, very crowded, get a bit overstimulated, it's kind of like everything just gets a bit much. But again, it will never be one thing of one scenario. It's so random that I could just be sat on my own, just comes over me that I've never been able to pinpoint, right, this is what it is.
Hmm.
So that's something I'm still dealing with. And it's so great to have such a good like support network around me, that people, like, they know that's what I go through, like especially at training. Like I say, it can come out of nowhere. So I have had panic attacks at a training session where people, they understand what's happening, and it's not like, it's not created a big deal out of oh my god, what's going on, but it's also not pushed to the side. It's like people know how to deal with it and how I cope with myself. And it's really nice to have them people there, of they're there if I need them, but also they know that sometimes I might just need my own space for a minute.
Absolutely. So, obviously, you mentioning that you've had it at train session before. Has it ever happened at a show at all whilst you've been getting ready, whilst you've been going through, say, some practice or anything like that? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, so I think sometimes I have a bit of a day and I know that I'm not feeling 100%, and it's that
Hmm.
sort of, right, do I push through it, go training and push through it, and take my mind off it and I'll be fine, or do I just stay at home again and do my thing? So it's kind of been that thing of, no, I'm just going to go anyway. And I think, I'm getting ready and I can just feel it, and then I'm going to go and do a drill and then I feel it, and it's kind of that point where it just gets so much that it's like, right, I just need to go for a minute. So it's that thing of, I've had one when I've first been there. I've had one going through like mid drill and that kind of, you push through, and then when you're done, it's kind of like, right, now I need to go let it all out. And obviously, where we train, it's a lovely little unit that, I can just go outside, take a deep breath, be in the corner where people can still, go on and do their own thing, but I can still have my own time.
Okay, fantastic. So, uh, when these panic attacks happen, and obviously people are very sympathetic as to why they're happening, they know what to do, sort of thing. Um, when you're sort of like on your own, is there a breathing technique that you do? Do you just like, because I know that there's a lot of people that do something daft like the scream as loud as they can just to like get it out, sort of thing. Is that sort of the sort of thing that you would do, sort of really?
So obviously, when I'm at training, my I think the main port of call is my dad, because obviously he's there a lot of the same training sessions as I am, and
Hmm.
being my dad, he knows me so well that he'll just start talking about the most randomest things, making dad jokes, and really taking my mind off it. So when I'm really struggling and he's talking about God knows what and making jokes that he knows I think are funny, it's that kind of thing, like, he tells me, right, we're gonna stop, we're gonna breathe, and obviously he'll do that with me. He'll go through that, and then just out of nowhere, he'll just say something completely random, and it's kind of like, I'm focusing on my breathing, but now you're telling me something funny. That's taking my mind off it, and now I'm going to start interacting with what you're telling me, and it's kind of like, you're telling me it's okay. Obviously, we're in a safe place, and everything's fine. It's all right to just take my own time and deal with things on my own. So it's that kind of thing of like, I think everyone knows that when I'm having my moment, just come and talk to me about something random. I'll eventually calm myself down and I'll come around to what he's saying and I'll get involved. So I think that's the best port of call with me, is just keep me distracted, talk to me about something else.
Fantastic. So, if there's someone watching who also suffers with panic attacks, such as yourself, what kind of advice would you give to that person that sort of like doesn't know what to do to establish sort of like a ground with having a panic attack?
I'd say don't fear it. When I first started having panic attacks, especially in public, I'd get very. I used to make them worse on myself in that I didn't want to just come out and have a big panic attack in front of everyone because I was embarrassed. Um,
Hmm.
which is something that's completely like ridiculous because you shouldn't be embarrassed because it's natural and so many people go through it. And I think I used to make myself quite a lot worse sometimes, just going, right, no, hold it in, wait till you're on your own. When you're on your own, it's fine to let it all out. But I think it's just kind of like knowing that no, it's fine, people are there. I've always found that if I just let it happen, just let it out, I feel so much better after. um, and it took me a while to come to that conclusion because I did used to just kind of shut myself away and go, like, I didn't want anybody to know. I just wanted to get on with it. Just if I felt one was coming, I'd just go on my own and sort of that thing. And it's kind of like, don't be afraid to, let other people see that, yes, you might have panic attacks, but it's okay. People are there to help you.
Absolutely fantastic. So, um, have you ever tried to suppress the panic attack at all, and has that made it worse?
Yeah, there have been a few times where I can feel it coming on. I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's been like at dancing or I have been in a training session. It's kind of like, you're doing something at that moment in time and everyone's there watching you. And I've just like kind of go, no, no, it's fine, push it away. And after it just a big explosion of emotions that obviously because after having them for so long, I knew how to start controlling them. But when I did suppress them, they'd be a lot worse than they had been like previously. So it's kind of like I'm getting better, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. And then I try and suppress one because of the situation I'm in, and it's just made everything worse. It's like a whole big, bottling it all up, and then everything comes out. So I think I've learned from that to definitely like, if you're in the middle of something, just stop. People aren't gonna be annoyed at you if you need to take a minute. And I think everyone, like people at Elevation, they just know that if you need a minute, you need a minute. You just got to let that be. So I think suppressing it definitely wasn't great for me. So I think just be brave in yourself and don't be afraid to show people that this is a struggle that you might have, but it is okay.
Absolutely. So, was it quite a nice surprise when you were at Elevation, if when you have a panic attack, that everyone is really sympathetic towards it and they're not getting annoyed, they're not getting frustrated? Is it just nice to know that they are there for you, sort of thing?
Definitely, because obviously when I was younger, it's kind of like obviously you don't want to make these stereotypes. It's like, right, I'm this 16-year-old girl, and I don't just want to be in the corner and people think she's just crying because it's kind of like it is that something that's a bit more. So obviously I've spoke to people and said, if you see this, this is what's going on. I'm not just sat in the corner crying for no reason. And it's kind of like knowing that all these big scary wrestlers, it's kind of like they understand it too, because people make out obviously that it's not that spoken about, but having all these people, like especially men, because isn't like spoken about enough, going, no, it's okay, we get these feelings too, and we're here for you if you need that. So it's just nice to have that dynamic of everyone understands and we're here for you if you need us.
Absolutely. So obviously you mentioned that you've had quite a few conversations with the male wrestlers. Has there ever been anyone that you've sort of looked at and thought is a big scary guy, and then they've turned out to be really really nice? You've sort of like not been shocked, but like taken aback by them being so thoughtful.
In general, I'd say like Franco Fate and Alton Thorne. I think they
Mhm.
are like, you just look at them and go, I would not want to get in a fight with them. But when I've spoken to them, they're such like lovely people. That it's kind of like looks even that you're so nice. And I think I was at training and was doing power bombs. I'd never taken a power bomb before, and I just so happened to pick Franco Fate to give me a power bomb. Big cool guy, and I was like, this might not end well, I'm a bit nervous. But he was so sweet. He helped me and he gave me the most gentlest power bomb ever to make sure that I was comfortable in like the mechanics works. And it was kind of like I was so nervous to go up and ask him to give me a power bomb. But then he was so sweet that he was like, yeah, that's fine, we'll do it. We'll do it again, comfortable. If you don't like it, we don't need to try it again. If it's okay, we can do it and we can work up to make it, how you properly do it. And it's just that thing of like, you're lovely. It was really, really nice. Really,
It's always great to hear. One person that I was quite shocked at, well, not sort of like taken aback by the kindness, was Mustafa Khan from UKW. He's obviously been on the show, opening up about his struggles. Someone that you wouldn't necessarily see someone having confidence issues. Is that sort of thing that Mustafa said to like gave to you as well? Was he as nice as he is?
Was absolutely lovely. Obviously, when I first went there, I hadn't been around that scene. Like I didn't really know any of the wrestlers from UKW. Obviously, I had them on my Instagram and I followed what was going
Mhm.
on. But in person, I hadn't really met any of them. Obviously, when I went over and he came over and he said hello and he started talking to me, and I was like, it's really nice, just come to a show and people approach you and just have a just a conversation with you. Not the just usual hi, this is my name. It was kind of like just speaking about how it is, coming to a new show and just that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So, would you say that the demanding nature of professional wrestling has impacted your mental health in any way?
I think sometimes a little bit at the moment. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm still a dancer, so it's that sort of commitment to both.
Mhm.
Obviously, with wrestling at the moment, it's nice that I'm obviously being wanted for a certain amount of bookings, but then it's kind of like how to then connect my dance schedule that I'm kind of like, right, I need to make this fit with that. Sometimes that can be a bit hard, a bit hold on me of I really want this, but also I'm this and that sort of thing. It makes me a bit nervous sometimes of I really want to do that, but now I have to let them down because I have to do this instead. So I think sometimes that can be a bit difficult for me, and that's what I've struggled with. And it's hard to say that because it's so lovely that I am obviously being offered more opportunities outside. That I never want that to be a burden of oh no, I want to do that, but I can't. But I am retiring from dancing at the end of January, so I think it'll be a lot easier for me to work out my bookings of different shows and stuff. That I'll have a lot more free time.
Absolutely. Have you ever had any comments from people that you do dancing with about any particular bruises or anything like that from the wrestling at all?
I have obviously in a dancer. Obviously, when you're on stage and you have these nice, pretty dresses, and then I'll have my arms out, and my arms are all covered in bruises. That people are like quite contrasting there. Really pretty dress, and you've got all these marks on your arms, and I just have I also wrestle at the weekend, so I am going to have the odd bruise here and there, but everything's okay.
Fantastic. So, what specific challenges related to mental health have you faced so far? I've got a couple of examples for you. First one is performance anxiety, pressure, travel, body imagery, and social media scrutiny. Have any of those come to light whilst you've been wrestling?
I think definitely body image is one that I've always struggled with in general in life. Um, and it's just that sort of thing of, when you see on TV that certain wrestlers look a certain way. And I have, like, even on my Instagram, I see, right, I don't look like this wrestler, I don't look like that wrestler. It's kind of that sort of thing of, like, I really want to. But then it's kind of like people are so positive of you don't have to. Like, it's not, nobody cares what you look like when you come out to a show. They want to see you wrestle, they want to see you interact with them. They're just excited to meet you and see you wrestle, really see what you can do. And recently I got some new gear. I got a two piece for the first time ever. It was always a thing of mine that I'd never get a two piece set. I always wore a leotard. But I was kind of like, I want to be like all these other girl wrestlers that wear two pieces and look more professional. And so eventually I did. I spent out quite a bit of money on a two piece set, and I was like, right, if I spend a lot of money on it, it's gonna gaslight myself into you've got to wear it now because you spent money on it. And funnily enough, I wore it at like one of our PLE shows, so one of our biggest shows, and I was like, take your gear, you're gonna put it on. You might struggle, like you might just get in your own head about it, but you've got to do it. I was like, if I don't do it now, when am I ever going to do it? And when I did that, the amount of positive feedback I got from people, like all the fans going, I love your gear, and you look great. And it's sort of that thing of, I didn't really feel like that, but hearing from other people that, they don't see me the same way that I see myself, that's sort of a nice thing of, they really don't care what I look like, it's all in my own head. So I think that was really nice of, you know, I struggle with it, but I just pushed through, and it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Fantastic to hear. Fantastic. So, has there been any particular moments or periods so far where your struggles have felt particularly overwhelming?
I think originally it was when I was taking my first outside bookings, where obviously I wasn't with my dad and my uncle, because they were such a like massive comfort blanket for me when I first started wrestling. That I was quite a shy person, didn't really have much confidence, didn't really like speaking to people. It was kind of like I always had my dad and uncle there, of like they'd talk to people, and I'd get involved through them and that sort of thing. It's okay because my dad and uncle are there. But when I first started going to outside bookings, it was that sort of, you need to make it on your own now. It's like you're getting older, you need to, sort of put yourself forward, put yourself out there. And I think for me at that moment, it felt like such a massive thing of, I was so nervous. It's like, I have to meet people, and then do I tell them my wrestling name, or do I tell them my real name, and do I shake that? And like that whole thing of like, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. So that was the sort of thing that I wasn't worried about wrestling on the show. I was worried about getting there and meeting people. But I think over time, going to new places and meeting new wrestlers, you just kind of like, you're thrown in the deep end, and that's really how you learn. So I feel like I've really come a long way with that sort of, my confidence and meeting new people. So I think even though I got thrown in the deep end, it's that sort of, skills that you have to learn.
Fantastic. So you mentioned obviously earlier that your dad and your uncle are quite big supports. Are both quite a big support system for yourself. Who else would you say you rely on as a support system, both within and outside of wrestling?
So within wrestling, I think, like I say, with Elevation, we're all so close. Obviously, I mentioned Kai Daniels and Nathan Fisher. They're like my closest, obviously, wrestling friends. And then Zach, the ring announcer for Elevation, he has been a god to me. When I first started going out to, obviously, like my PEW was my first show. Obviously, he was there with me. And that sort of, obviously, because we're so close in Elevation, like outside of wrestling, it was kind of nice to, you know, we travelled up together, and we have such lovely car rides. We sing, we chat, we rant about anything and everything. It's that sort of, feeling at ease before you even get there. And I think everyone knows that, like, I always joke that they wrap me in bubble wrap there, but it's like people are so lucky that, they really look out for me, whether it's like getting me through a match or just like in general backstage area. They're all so lovely that they really do look after me there.
It's fantastic stuff. So, what message would you give to other wrestlers or just anyone that's watching who might be struggling with their mental health and feel as though they aren't able to talk about it?
I feel like I'd definitely say, as much as you might struggle to talk about it, find that one person that you are comfortable with, that one person that you know that you like to go to, and just tell them honestly like how you're feeling. Because having it, kept to yourself really isn't the best situation, and that's how things really start to get on top of you. I found, when I first started talking to people about my panic attacks, that I was so in my head about. It's like people are like, it's not it's not this big negative thing that you should be ashamed of. So as much as it feels like the worst thing to you, talking about it really does, having it in the air, it really like makes it a lot easier for you. It's a big, big weight lifted off your shoulders.
Fantastic. How do you believe that the professional wrestling industry as a whole can better support its performance and mental well-being?
I think just I'd say like putting it out there, talking about it, promoters talking about it, creating that, because as much as like people are positive backstage, I think throwing it out there, just in general to people that, mental health is a big thing. Support each other the best you can. If you're noticing things in people that are different, as much as you might not want to, just make a little comment, check up on them, make sure they're okay. That sort of thing of like just letting people know that it is okay not to be okay. So that sort of, not saying brush the carpet. If you're noticing things, talk to people about it. If it's nothing, that's great. And if someone might open up to you, and that's even better. You've helped someone that might have thought they couldn't have spoken to somebody.
Absolutely. So, as we start to wind down, Freya, what would you say that what role has wrestling played in your overall mental health journey? Would you say that it's been a source of strength? Has it been a challenge, or is it a bit of both?
At the moment, I would love to say that it's been a massive strength of mine. Seeing how I was when I first debuted to now, I've noticed like people at work have said to me that I'm a completely different person since I've started wrestling. That I'm so more forward in myself, so much confidence, so more outspoken. That like I'm doing things that they never thought they'd see me do, and just overall, like I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot more confident, and I do think that is down to wrestling. Meeting new people, getting out there, achievements that I've made. It's kind of like it just shows you that it's all worth it, and it's been a big strength to me.
Fantastic. So, as we start to wind down, we're going to get a bit more. Couple of questions. Last few questions are a bit more supportive, like a bit more cheery, just because obviously it can get a bit dark. These questions. So, what do you want your legacy to be when you retire?
When I retire, I'd like to leave the legacy of, that person that, like it's never too late to start, I guess. Obviously, with wrestling not being a massive dream of mine, it's kind of like it doesn't matter, if that's not what you wanted to do, that you can just switch into that. Obviously, being a dancer for so long, I never thought I'd get into wrestling. So it's kind of like for the people that think I've left it too late or it's not something I can do, it's that kind of you can, leave that, show that you can do this. And especially for the young children, especially the young girls, that that was once me. That's not something I thought I'd do, but here I am.
Fantastic. So coming up to the last question, I posted this question to Steve Dean, the referee, when I had him on the show a couple of months back, and when I did, he had a miniature breakdown. So I'm hoping that I get quite a good reaction from yourself. So the final question is: who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Oh, that is a great question. Oh dear. Do you want TV?
Sorry?
Because I don't watch too many. I think ever since I was younger, I've always been a big fan of John Cena. At the minute, I'm really liking Tiffany Stratton. I take quite a bit of my stuff from her. And then I think if I'm going local, I've got to add Bad Intentions on there. Both Bad Intentions, they make up, obviously, for the massive role they've played in my career. That's who I'm going to put on there.
Fantastic. I really hope that you do incorporate Tiffany Stratton into your move set, by which I mean the prettiest moonsault ever. I'd love to see you do the moonsault.
Get that in there.
So, guys, that is the end of the first episode of 2026 of the Unseen Battles. I've been here with Miss Freya Rose, an absolutely delightful young lady to have on the channel. It's been an absolute pleasure to have Freya on today. Make sure that you check out Freya's Instagram, which is on the QR code just above my head. It is www.instagram.com/Freya_Rose_wrestler. Got that right first time. That's a good one. So yeah, to end the show, Freya, I'd like to let you plug anything. Is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to get off your chest? Whatever it is that you'd like to say, the floor is yours.
Just if you're thinking about wanting to try wrestling or anything in life, just do it. It might be the best thing.
There we go, guys. Make sure you check out the next episode. And as always, guys, remember, it's okay to talk. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.